Hello, everyone, and thanks for checking into the Pit Stop. This is our recap for Amazing Race Season 37, Episode 9, the Pizza de Resistance. You know, Cayla, I was thinking this is a missed opportunity. We should have been throwing a little virtual pizza party.
I know. I was actually thinking that too. A little margarita pizza.
Yes, exactly. Or we should have been making pizza while we're live streaming.
Or at the very least, drinking red wine, because that's, that goes well with pizza, but missed opportunity.
I was able to have some pizza and a glass of red wine a couple of weeks ago at a Bryson Wen viewing party for Survivor and the premiere of Amazing Race with our two very special guests from season 35, Ashlie, and from season 36, Danny. Hey, y'all.
Hello, hello.
Thanks for having us.
So excited to have you guys on.
Thank you.
I love our color scheme. Cayla and I have pretty much similar sweaters on, but our color scheme, we knocked it out of the park today.
You guys did really well. All three of you. Mine's a little off, but
it looks like it fits.
Yeah, I need to go get some glasses to match.
You look like you need to be flying a plane, Danny. You look like a pilot with your mustache. I like it.
Thank you.
We're all very much in sync. I love it. Well, I'm curious to see if we're in sync about our overall thoughts on this episode. So what did everyone think?
I loved it. I thought this was a fantastic episode. I really am just enjoying this season altogether. First and foremost, all of the twists and turns, I'm here for every single bit of it. And I really enjoyed this particular season. I was shook at the ending. I'm sure we'll talk about that later, but I'm here for it. And I gotta say, Han and Holden have become my new favorites. I just love their energy and their banter. I always picture myself going on with my brother, and it would be a total disaster because our love language is just doing digs at each other constantly. That's how we show how much we love each other. So it would derail so quickly. So I really like watching them.
I love it. What about you, Danny?
Definitely fun. Naples, Italy, the first time they're going there. It was definitely
wild.
So jealous.
A lot of route infos, but I think they got to really experience the culture of the city, which I always love in an Amazing Race leg is what are they doing with the locals? How are they doing something that's a part of their customs? A little bit predictable in the sense of this team isn't showing up. They're not going to catch up. They're going. But then at the end, when they caught up, I'm like, oh, it's a race. They're not actually that far behind. But I love the switching of the teams at the beginning of the leg. You didn't know who was going to win and who was going to get out of a challenge first. So I really enjoyed this episode.
What about you?
I was finally happy to see some roadblocks or detours that, in my opinion, were more challenging. The mozzarella did not look easy. I think Anna and Justin literally picked the perfect thing for them. You know what I mean? But for maybe someone else who hasn't strung a guitar before, that could have been a little more difficult. Mm-hmm. The pizza, I felt they were very strict on it. I feel the past couple episodes, it's been very quick, completion and here's your clue and move on. But this one, it was nice to kind of see, things not pass right away and it be a little bit more of a detailed tasks that they had to do. So location, super cool, super jealous. The detours, roadblocks, I really liked. The ending, I called it from last week.
You did.
You did? Oh my gosh.
I was I feel it's gonna be a non-limb. I don't know. Super happy because I love Han and Holden. Like you said, Ashlie, they're definitely becoming a team that I just really enjoy watching. Mm-hmm. But yeah, we'll talk about the ending a little bit more because I'm happy they're not eliminated, but I felt a certain type of way. I don't know. We'll talk about it later.
Well, I thought it was crazy that after 37 seasons that the race has never been to Naples. I was
I know.
I was shocked.
They've been to Italy so much, but never Naples. And I thought the way the leg was designed was amazing. I really enjoyed everything that the teams were doing. And, compared to last week with there being so many route infos where it was just grab a clue and go. I liked that a lot of the route infos this leg was paired with a task to complete as well. Yeah. But it felt fuller, even though there was less teams, which I think is necessary at this point of the race to fill those 90-minute episodes. But I loved it from start to finish, and I agree. We'll talk about the ending when we get to it. I had some thoughts as well. But to start off this episode, we all know the teams made their way to Naples, Italy, and of course, they're plugging that Expedia app. So easy, so convenient to book travel through. We love a plug. We have Mark and Brett leaving first, talking about how this is not the time to let their guards down, especially with 5 teams left. We hear Alyssa and Josiah talk about that express pass and how they are so happy to have it in their pockets, but they're not planning to touch that until leg 10. Jonathan and Anna, Jonathan is actually turning a new leaf for me. It seems like we're seeing a different side of him. Even though they're leaving in third, he seems pretty optimistic, especially because Anna's pointing out that this is an equalizer. They're all on the same flight. Carson and Jack, they were humbled in Bulgaria. And then Han and Holden leaving in last, obviously not where they want to be, but they feel like all they have to do is beat one team, which unfortunately they did not this leg, but thankfully that was a non-elimination. I will say I really appreciated that they showed us some airport chatter. I just think that they need to start showing that more.
I agree. That's where all of the conversations happen. If you are trying to like form alliances, or even just kind of, that's where all the drama happens. We saw it with Anna and Jonathan with the other teams that you turned them, and
Right.
like I was like glued. I couldn't take my eyes off of it because they were really like, how dare you? But I agree. I think that's where all of the tea happens. So it's like, give us more of those shots, please.
And you heard Mark say, like, what's the tea, guys? Filming
Yes.
what's going on? Like, that is tea time, essentially.
I mean, it was tea time even for my season, which was COVID, where we weren't doing like the long airport sits, like we were actually like being chartered in a plane. But it was like, aside from physically traveling all in a group, we're in hotel rooms by ourselves. Yep. So it's like, flights, airports, like, that's when all the juice happens. You know, like,
for sure.
Show us more of it. Like, teams are making deals. Teams are talking about other teams. Like, they definitely need to show more of it if they're going to continue with the 90-minute episodes.
Agreed. And definitely it was interesting, even just the spacing. Like I looked at the episode and was like, oh, it's interesting that like Brett and Mark and Alyssa and Josiah, and then I think Jack and Carson were all sitting in one area, and then Han and Holden and Jonathan and Anna were sitting kind of like in a different area.
Great.
And then guess who ran together?
Yes.
And so it was really interesting because I was like, oh, I didn't realize Jonathan and Anna were so close with Han and Holden in the sense of like helping each other. And then in the like stopping the vernacular, they literally held the vernacular to make sure that Han and Holden were able to get on.
Which is smart because in my mind, we talked about it last episode. If there's any sort of helping another team, in my mind, the best strategy would be helping the weaker team along so they're an easy beat at the end. Like, that kind of sounds pretty harsh and cutthroat, but like that, I would have loved to known if that was Jonathan and Anna's like, I guess, angle and working with them, because again, we're just left to fill in the pieces, or maybe it was just out of convenience, but I would love from just like a reality TV standpoint to know, why did you choose to run with them? You know, like, because they were literally running, finding the clues, like they were running as pairs as a team. And it's like, where did that relationship start, you know, and why? Like, it would just be cool to hear like the back end of like, oh, well, yeah, we actually kind of want to help them because we think we can beat them more than we can beat Alyssa and you know, her husband or whatever. So I don't know. Yeah. I want the tea. Like, I want the juice. Like, I want to, like, it's strategy. Like, people don't think Amazing Race is strategy. A lot of it, I will say, isn't, but it is at the same time. Like, that's my biggest thing where I just want to like speak up for Amazing Racers. Like, there are moments that involve strategy. Like, am I the only one thinking that?
Oh, no. I was going to say you have two.
Not at all.
I was going to say you're talking to some people who made some strategic moves on their seasons that got a lot of backlash from.
For sure. But it's like, okay, just because it's not aired on our show doesn't mean it's not happening.
Yeah, it's like they scaled back on that kind of edit, especially after our season. And of course, they sprinkled some in with Danny because that is just a given.
Anywho,
So
that was
it's
my
a
rant.
mad dash to the taxis in the parking lot once they land, and they have to make their way to a military stronghold overlooking Naples. The views were stunning. This is where teams will pick up their next clue, but first they had to travel up a hill on a funicular. And I thought it was a really fun power move with Han kind of taking up the rear, and she immediately puts her foot between the doors just to like pop it open. I'm like, ooh, if only Pops and Jeff did that in Dubai.
I know.
Maybe it would have been a different outcome. But I love
Smart move.
to do that. Once they're at the top, they get their route info that tells them they have to make their way to rub the nose of the Pulcinella statue with both of their hands for good luck. And then they get their clue from the real life Pulcinella. I loved, and I think Danny, you mentioned this when you were talking about the overall episode, just like the mad dash of the teams from this point and how much the placements were changing. Because you saw Jonathan and Anna and Han and Holden get on the funicular down first. So you naturally, I think, are thinking, oh, well, they're going to lead the pack for a bit. But somewhere, once they got off, Mark and Brett and Alyssa and Josiah and, well, maybe more so Mark and Brett and Carson and Jack got the best directions that they showed up to it first.
Yeah.
I thought it was impressive.
I love it. Like, I love how they showed up there like, oh, there's other teams. Like, yeah. Again, it's just the logic of why'd you run with certain people? Like, you know, it's like that group herd mentality. But yeah.
I'm curious to ask you guys, when it comes to when it's a tight race, when you guys are all close together and kind of clustered and going to the same locations, do you prefer to run with the pack or do you prefer to kind of like branch off and be on your own?
I think I've learned this of like, at least for me, I'm like, I always want to know where I'm going. I'm always going to be the one with directions. The second I learned from the very first episode on our season is like, oh, we ran with another team and we went the complete wrong way. And so I'm like, I will always stop and get directions and not mad dash because we'll make up the time later.
Yeah.
Because the mad dash creates chaos. Like, you guys are all rushing. Whereas like, if it was just me and my partner, there'd be less, like, I don't want to say less urgency. That's the wrong word. But like, yeah, it's just, it just gets sloppy, I think.
There you go.
Know,
yeah.
Like
well, like when they got to the medieval fortress, everyone was kind of bunched up together.
Yep.
But Jonathan and Anna and Han and Holden went a completely different way. And Brett and it seemed like Brett and Mark were kind of like making that split decision of like, do we go this way or do we go that way? And they ended up following Jack and Carson and Alyssa and Josiah, which put them towards the back at that point. But I like always having one team in sight just because you know where you kind of are. But when it's like chaos of everyone, I'd rather be able to trust my own instincts and get, like Annie said, get the directions that I'm confident and I can be comfortable with.
Mm-hmm.
But that is if you think you can beat them in a foot race.
That's also true.
True. Very true. I was just curious.
Great question.
I will
what about you, Ashlie?
Well, it's hard because the running with Todd, obviously, like he is very much like, let's keep people close. And I'm more of like, no, let's kind of go on our own. And so we have to kind of find a happy medium when we're racing together. But there was, I think it was in Vietnam where we kind of got caught up in the chaos of, you know, following someone, because when someone sprints off, you automatically assume they know where they're going. They have the clue. Oh my God, they're like, you know, they're about to win. And so you just automatically want to follow. And we had to learn to say like, hey, we need to take a beat and like, we need to slow down and let's just do our own thing. So I think it's hard running with someone who thinks opposite of you, but therein lies the challenge. But I agree. I think I'm more closer to doing it on our own.
Yeah. I think every time in my personal experience that, again, it's like that, it's not even race related. Like, it's like if someone's running, your initial thing is like, oh, we got to follow them. They're getting to it quicker. But it's like, hold on, are they even running in the right direction?
Exactly.
Like, I remember, in Corsica, Penn and Kim running ahead. And we were like, we can beat Penn and Kim in a foot race. Like, let's run and we can beat them. And in reality, they were running the wrong way. So opposed to just getting directions where we needed to go, we were like, we can beat Penn and Kim in a foot race. And it's like, but we were racing the wrong direction. Like, had we just ignored that and gotten our own directions, it's hard to do in the moment. But like, my answer is if I were to go back and race again, I would try and tell myself I'm not doing the herd mentality. If I don't know where I'm going, I'm not chasing after another team. Like I don't want to do it.
You're really just trusting your instincts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
One thing that is interesting is like a theme is like Jack and Carson are not great with directions.
I know.
They are really struggling. Like there were a couple times where it was walking or like, and I'm sitting there going, boys, I'm nervous for you if you make the finale and it's a self-drive flag. Like,
so did they almost get kind of lucky being on the funicular with Brett and Mark, and they kind of got those same directions and they kind of ran off together? Because if, let's say, they hadn't got on the funicular, would Jack and Carson even been more tripped up with the directions getting to the statue?
Yeah.
And that's like a team by team thing. Like if you're a team that you recognize directions are not your strongest suit, run with the teams. Keep a team in the site. At least you're getting lost with another team. You know what I mean? I just personally think Raquel and I were very strong with directions. So like, yeah, you just have to remember, like, run your own race. Like that might not be the case for everybody if directions are not their strong suit. But yeah, it was just, I loved the mad dashes and the chaos that created, and like, the equalizer and things like that. But it's just funny, like certain teams, I was just like, interesting that you ran with that team. Like, but.
We'll have to ask Jonathan and Anna if there was a little bit of an ulterior motive to that.
I respect it. I respect it if so, like, but anywho.
I loved this detour, though. It was mandolin or mozzarella. And mandolin, the detour required teams to bring a mandolin to life, adding the final pieces. When it's music to the ears of the judge, they would get their next clue. And then for additional information, we heard Anna, as they were there kind of reading the additional information, that you have to choose who of the two of you would assemble the hardware, and then the other person would have to attach the strings. And then in mozzarella, the cheesemakers in Italy take great care to create the right texture, then expertly stretch it and put it into braids, which they would have to do 6 total, weighing 250 to 350 grams, which is when teams would then get their next clue. Of these two detours, which side do you think you guys would have ultimately chosen?
I would have definitely done mozzarella just for the sole fact of like, maybe I got to eat. Because I love mozzarella. To mandolin, I would think music. And again, singing, dancing, choreography, any of that is like a nightmare for me. Like, I don't want any of that. Yes, this one happened to be like building it, which I think I actually would have been pretty strong at. But I would not want to risk the fact that I had to play it in any way. Or mimic a song, or maybe I'm singing and dancing to someone playing the mandolin. Like, again, it's like, until I read the further instructions, I don't know. I'm just seeing food and music, and I'm choosing food.
Yeah, that's a hard one. I was torn 50-50 on this one. I feel like the mandolin would have played more to our strengths. I love putting things together. Any knickknacks, any tools that are involved, I'm here for. And Todd's really good at like attention to detail. I feel like we would have done really well in that particular one. But knowing Todd, if it is food related, he'd be like 100%, I'm trumping you and we're going to do the food, because in his mind, he's like, it's an eating challenge. And, so anything that is food related. Yeah, exactly. See how much you can eat. But I think I would have done the mandolin for sure.
I think I would have leaned more mandolin and Mom would have leaned more mozzarella.
Yeah.
And so it would have been interesting to have seen like what our discussion would have been. I think it would have depended a little bit on like location of which one was closer to where we were at. Just in the off chance of like switching. That was like something we always were really mindful of like, can we get to one? And then is it an easy switch if like we don't think we're going to be able to do it?
Yeah.
So.
I love when teams like disagree. Like that would be like, I would love to hear you pitch. Like, I think we should do this. And you're like, no. And then it's like, yeah, how do you decide which one you do? Like, I love when that happens.
You Rochambeau it.
Right?
No, you go. Mom's always right. We're gonna
There you go. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. I feel like mozzarella just sounds more fun on paper, especially when you're in Italy. I think
In
you
Italy, I'm
kind
like,
of want to jump at the
mozzarella, duh.
opportunity. But I think Will and I probably would have leaned towards mandolin. I just think mandolin was a little bit more straightforward in the sense you just had to go off the display. Of course, you couldn't bring it to the display and work on it there, which was also in the clue. But I think there's more parts, but it seems more straightforward. Where like mozzarella, it's maybe sounds easy in theory, but like with Han and Holden, they just couldn't get the technique down, and that requires some level of technique. So I just felt like mandolin was more straightforward.
But I almost want to combat you with that, but they could get the technique. They were overcomplicating it. That's how I feel with Raquel when she was doing her domades or whatever it's called. It was like you were just way overthinking it, which I feel like was the case for Han and Holden.
Yeah.
Yeah, because when they finally got their check, they got what?
They literally were like, "Oh, we were fine."
Out of she was like, I guess we were actually not bad at it. You're like, no, you weren't. It just get checked sooner. That was one of the things that, I always kick myself is like, always just when in doubt, get checked and then get your gauge. And then like, I don't know who it was. Was it Brent and Mark where I think they got all 5. They needed one more. And they said, oh, well, then we'll just use this as our, maybe it was Carson and Jack.
It was Jack
we'll
and
use
Carson.
this. We'll use this as a weight to kind of, which I thought was brilliant. And then I think the next time they went up, they actually jumped Mark and Brent.
Yep.
And they got the check. So
they got all
I would say that was something that like I evolved with over the course of like my time on the race. Was in the beginning, I was very meticulous. It had to be perfect. It had to be whatever. And then like the longer we got, I realized I'm like, well, they got okay for that. And they got okay for that. I'm like, just get checked sooner because they might not be as specific on the details you think they're going to be.
Exactly.
100%.
Yeah, that was like, I felt like Han and Holden was really like, oh, that was fine. And then I hope now, knowing that it was a non-elimination leg and they should have gone home, they don't need to overcomplicate it and they need to get checks quicker, like sooner. Like, don't waste too much time. Like, see what's wrong so you can correct it. I don't know. I feel like they wasted a lot of time and could have actually made up more time than they did had they moved a little quicker and gotten a quicker check on mozzarella.
Yeah.
I also, I think, want to just shout out like Jonathan and I think this was such a highlight episode for them. Like just 100%. Genuinely like, I know there's been some ups and downs, but they communicated really well. And you kind of just saw like their communication of like, they let each other do their individual strengths and supported each other really well. And he was like encouraging and she was encouraging. And I just was like, this is like really cool and like beautiful to see this side of like, all right, you guys both thriving in your element and not getting stressed with one another, even though I was like, this is the leg to get stressed because they're all super close with each other. There was no like, oh, go faster, like anything. It was all like, yep, we're tight in a race and we're going to do our best. And so that was really fun to hear a little bit of their backstory, especially with the task, but just like really excited for the two of them and their like finishing journey on the Amazing Race.
Yeah, I feel like they've definitely evolved and like, and again, we had some pretty harsh criticisms, but that's like what we're here doing. Like, I mean, at the end of the day, but it's so hard having like being on TV for the first time and being in a relationship and bickering and whatever, like you are literally put in a pressure cooker. And unfortunately, I don't think I don't think he handled it as best as he could in the beginning. But at the same time, it's like, this is such a unique experience. And like, yeah, you're being put on blast to where like, I think he's settled into his own. And I think he's gotten more comfortable. And now you're seeing them communicate better. You're seeing like a sweeter side to like their relationship and their dynamic. And like, he's truly just letting himself enjoy the race. Like he said it multiple times. He's like, this is so fun. This is so fun.
Yeah.
And like, if he could have just gone into the race with that mindset initially, but I think he went in like so competitive, but it's like, it's a once in a lifetime opportunity. Like, please just try and enjoy it too. And I think he's finally being able to do that a little bit. So yeah, I definitely want to give them kudos because Yeah, it was a cool highlight. This was their leg to win. Like I just loved hearing him be like, "This is so fun." Like I loved seeing that side of him.
Yeah.
He looked like he truly was enjoying the moment.
Yeah.
I know, and it's really hard too because you get selected and you know to go on the race and you're like, oh, it's gonna be just like it is on TV. It is so hard. It is way harder than people like, you know, than just watching it. And everyone always says that, but it's true. Like the sleep deprivation, like you're locked in a hotel room with your partner for God knows how long before you even get started. So you're already irritated, I'm sure, at the max, you know? So it's like, there's just so much. And then you actually go to start the race and physical exhaustion, mental. I mean, so I get it. I mean, it happens. And, you know, so I agree. I think this episode, we really got to see him just enjoy, I think, not only what he's doing, but being with Anna as well. And like being able to just say like, it looked like he was like you said, in the moment, and just appreciating it. So good on them.
Yeah, and this is why I love the 90-minute episodes, is because we are getting a little bit more backstory. And like what you were saying, Danny, with Jonathan and Anna, they both excelled at the two different sides because they were able to like be in their strengths, be in their element. But then on the flip side, I want to give, you know, a little bit of mention to Han and Holden as well. Han specifically because of that very vulnerable interview she was giving, just talking about how much of a perfectionist she is and felt like she wasn't doing or she wasn't good enough growing up. And there's just very high standards with her being the oldest daughter. And she's obviously grown. She's mentioned that, you know, 5 years ago, she was very different. It's still hard though, but it seems like this race is really, you know, helping her even grow even more. So I loved, even though it was a vulnerable moment for Han, I think as a viewer, it was just a very real moment. And I just really appreciated that.
Oh, for sure. And it also provides context because a lot of times, you know, you're sitting there thinking like, well, you know, as without context, what's her problem? Why is she so hard on Holden? And why is she so high strung or whatever the case may be? But then when you have those interviews and you see like, oh my gosh, well, that actually makes sense. And she does struggle with this. And maybe I struggle with that too. And, you know, so I think I'm so glad that they're showing a lot more of the, not the behind the scenes, but getting more into the backstory of the teams is really great.
Agreed. Well, great detour all around. After they finish the detour, they have to make their way to the Montesanto quarter where they would get their next clue. And this is our route info where teams must go shopping and use a local technique to deliver produce, sausages, and bread to one of the houses on the street. They would have to look for a balcony marked with red and yellow flowers, and then the local will drop some money and a list of what to get. I loved this route info, but I also love any kind of shopping or market-based task on the race. Just seeing like teams really interact with locals and like how are they going to go about the strategy of shopping for these items. It was a great task.
Yes, agreed. And again, you hear Justin say it again. He's like, this is so cool. Like, I really appreciated him this episode. I'm glad that, you know, they showed that to viewers because I think it's been pretty one-sided so far. But yeah, like I'm with you on the shopping and the market stuff because I didn't get to do that. So selfishly, like I loved this task. It's very unique to the location. I thought it was a perfect task for this location.
Yep. It was fun. It didn't really mess up the order at all. I think it just is like a good way of showing like culture and just fun. Mom would have loved it.
I will say one thing that I remember being like, at the end is the first 4 teams all seamlessly, you know, went to one store, got the artichokes, went to the next store, got the meat, got the panellas or whatever they were. It all was like seamless. And then Han and Holden were the only ones that seemed to have a communication problem.
Yeah.
Like, what was going on?
I'm like, are y'all overthinking it? Like, why were you guys the only team that had any sort of hiccup there? Because everyone else just went from one to the next and boom, quick, done. You know, so it was like, I was like, what's like, to me, I guess I needed more context with that. Maybe it was just them over complicating it.
But it's a good
I
point to
don't-
bring up because I took note of that too. I was like, why are Han and Holden the only ones struggling at something that seems fairly straightforward? They said
Yeah.
it was the language barrier, but I was like, something is amiss for me
Yeah.
as a viewer with Han and Holden's whole trajectory this lag. Like something
Yes.
wasn't clicking or adding up. I don't really have a theory, but it just was kind of odd.
So
Well, when you hear them, sorry, you go, Danny.
I was going to say, I wrote down all the other teams were passing when different teams were at different stores. And so everybody knew of the other 4 teams that were different locations that they needed to go
Good
to.
point.
Like, I'm like, oh, Josiah and Alyssa ran past Jonathan and Anna when they were coming out of a certain store. And
Yeah.
so for me, I was like, yeah, Han and Holden had no context to, are there multiple stores? Are we going into different places? Or I'm like, oh, the other teams, besides Jonathan and Anna, who started the leg, everybody else saw the other teams in the stores.
Got it.
That's a great. I didn't think about that. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Ashlie, did you like this task?
I loved it, and I'm with Cayla on this. We actually had a shopping activity in our season. I think it was in Thailand, and those are our favorite. Anytime that we can interact with the locals, that is like number one. That is Todd's bread and butter. I think that is like what he thrives at because, like I said, he doesn't speak their language, but they are 100% communicating, and it's crazy. But it just really really makes you appreciate where you are and what you're doing. So I loved it. I wish that we had a lot more of these types of challenges.
Yeah, because that's also how I wish that like my day-to-day life was. Like it's funny, like when I travel and go abroad, I'm like, I'm gonna go to the meat market and then I'm gonna go to the cheese market for this, and then I'm gonna go here, and then when I'm here, I go to Publix. You know what I mean? Not or Walmart or Trader Joe's. And it's like I just love when I'm abroad. I'm like, no, I want to go to the cheese market to get the cheese that I want. And it's like there are those options here. It's just not the same as it is over in Italy and Europe in general, to where it's just like that's just a fun task that I would do on vacation on my own, or like if I was there, I'd be like, how do I order groceries and have someone send it to me in a bucket? You know what I mean? Like it was just fun.
Yeah, great task. I mean, it would have been fun if they had to shop for ingredients to maybe bring with them to this next part of the episode where they got their route info, where they had to make the pizza. Yeah, they traveled in the car to Ristorante de Ettore to find their next clue, and they got to choose any available marked car with a driver, which brought them to their roadblock, Who's Feeling Saucy. They got to make pizza, which, as we know, is an art form, apparently. And this roadblock required teams to make one from scratch after stretching the dough into shape, then top it with the provided ingredients, and then cook it at 900 degrees. And then when the pizzioli says their pizzas are ready for delivery, he'll hand them a clue to send them on their way to the pit stop with their pizzas in hand. I don't know, but this was making me hungry watching it.
Yeah.
It looked so good. I mean, and I think it was who was it? Brett and Mark, and he was like, all I want to do is eat, like everywhere they're going. And like it's true, like when you are in Italy or these towns, like you have all these vendors with just delicious food that's like glistening, and all you want to do is just eat it. So I can totally imagine them just thinking the entire time, God, I wish I could just have a bite of anything right now. And then they were able to eat the pizza. That was so, I was like, oh, I would have been so like irritated if I was making the pizza and Todd was scarfing down on food. Right? I would have been like, what?
With the other teams, they're all just, they looked so relaxed.
Like, you guys were enjoying yourselves.
Yeah, exactly. No, thank you.
I thought this was so funny because literally I'm so mad at myself for not taking pictures or videos, but my friend got one of these ninja oven, like fire oven pizza things to where it's up to 700 degrees.
Oh, shoot.
But we have the whole, like the thing, the making the pizza, all the stuff. So as I'm watching this task happen, it's funny that Anna's like, oh, because I worked at Domino's, I know you got to put a little dough on the thing and it helps it slide easier. I literally was messing up so badly this Friday when we were doing this with all the friends. I'm like, why is it not coming? Like, why can't I get it on the pizza thing? And someone's like, oh, you're not putting dough, to make it slide easily. But then also when you're trying to put it in the oven, I slid it off too far to where it went all the way to the back and smushed. To where it's like, in theory, it's not that hard. But if you've never done it before, like Anna, again, perfect the whole leg was catered
I know.
to them.
I know.
She had the Domino's experience. He had the stringing a guitar experience.
Yes.
But it's like, I wouldn't have known to put the dough on there had my friend not said something. And also, like, yeah, I slid it all the way to the back.
You like made a calzone, like you split it
Yes,
so hard
I
it just
literally
pulled
like
it
just
into calzone.
pushed, and then I tried to like pull it and stretch it out. And my friend's like, no, you just gotta take the whole thing out and throw it away. And as they're doing that in this task, I was like, oh, I was literally there on Friday.
Even Alyssa, like she put her hand in the oven. Did you see that one? And I was like, "Don't do that!" Like even
you heard him. He goes, "No, like no, this one's done."
It was so funny. I wrote down the pizza people were protective of their pizza oven. On multiple occasions, they grabbed the thing from them, and I just laughed. And then there's one clip that you can see a bunch of the pizzas are smashed up in the back left-hand corner of the thing. I'm like, yep, there's Alyssa's pizza.
Yeah.
Alyssa was like, listen, I walked through fire. I don't mind sticking my hand through this 9,000 degree oven. Good grief.
I just loved overall how particular like the judge was. I love judging things because one, yes, it's like it's like room for like, oh, well, they were more lenient on this person or whatever, but he wanted it round. He had someone add more olive oil. One person didn't have enough cheese. Like one was burnt. Like I just loved, like in theory, it's an easy task. However, he was very particular about it. And as a viewer, I loved it. Like,
you gotta respect the art form.
Yeah.
Gotta be right.
Yes, I respected it. It was great.
And I did love that moment with Anna when she said all those years working at Domino's Pizza paid off, baby. And then, yeah, the flip side with Carson being like, I'm a self-proclaimed America's worst cook. And I did like the conversation of the roadblock strategy between Jack and Carson and who was doing it. And hearing their thought process of Jack being like, well, I can't, because if I do it, I'm capped and you're going to have to do the rest of the roadblocks. They're just such smart racers. And I know the last two legs may not have been like their finest moments in terms of navigation and getting from point A to point B, but I think that their gaming mind is just very impressive. And I still think that they have the potential to go to the end. Despite those little mishaps the last two legs.
I agree.
I think they'll be in the end. Like, yeah, it's like I don't want to predict the next two. And I'm so grateful. I am not spoiled this season. I have no idea, but I have my guesses.
Yeah. just to like also further explain, yes, Carson and Jack, like picking who did it was very smart and strategic. I wonder if they would have made the same decision if they knew Han and Holden were directly behind them. Because if I know that I'm truly terrible at cooking, I just don't know that. Anyways, it was smart because Han and Holden, I do think they knew that they were far enough behind to where it's like, okay, I do still think you have time to get it done correctly. But then even Alyssa and Josiah, like, you know, how she reiterates, like, unless I burn and slip and fall and all this stuff, like I'm not using it. Like, it's smart though, because like she had to redo it a couple times too. Like it was just, again, the 90-minute episodes and the teams that are left, like they're slowly giving us more and more of their thought process and their strategy on like the decisions that they're making.
Yeah, but then when Han and Holden did show up, I was like, are they editing it to make it seem like they're there at the same time? But then you see Jack eating his pizza in the background. Like, oh wow, like this is actually pretty close now. They're caught up.
Right. Yeah, and you see Jack stand up too, like, okay, Carson, you better hurry up.
Let's wrap it up.
Yeah. Which that's a little too close for comfort. I understand the not wanting to be one-sided on who has to do them, but like in theory, I don't know. It was just interesting because I was kind of torn. Like if I am literally known and making a joke of like, I am the world's worst cook, I don't think I would have been like, I will do the next two. Like, what are the odds that the next two are cooking? Like, is it really worth the risk?
Was it 3 to 5 though? I thought it was 3. Carson had done 3 and Jack was at 5. So he maxed at 6, and then Carson would have had to do the next 3.
Yeah, the next 3. I thought he said the next 2. Even still, I don't know. Even still, the fact that Han and Holden did end up catching up, like I just It was risky. It's smart.
Yeah.
It is smart by making him do it, but in the same breath, it's risky. Like,
Yeah.
100%.
Because if you
you're
get
that
eliminated,
guy,
then it doesn't matter who has what left. 'Cause
Yep.
now
yeah,
you're out,
that's
you
what,
know?
if it were me, if I'm stacked with whatever, or Raquel has done most of them, and if it's a dancing one, a choreographed thing, for the opportunity of me not having to do the rest, I need to do. I don't know. I'm not explaining it. I'm not articulating it right. But like in that moment, I'd be like, I don't. This is
Yep.
not smart for me to do it.
It makes
So I
sense.
think
It
at this
makes sense.
stage, either of us can be strong and whatever, but I know I am weak at dancing and choreography.
Like, don't
You
force me
need
to do it.
Yeah.
So
It's almost like I would rather have the chance of surviving the leg and then just see how the cards fall the next leg.
For
and
sure.
Maybe the roadblock will
Because
work in my favor.
Because with who's left, now granted, again, Han and Holden, unfortunately, I do think are the weaker of the teams left. And yes, they did catch up to them. It's at this stage in the race. Yes, you want to win. And yes, it's like forward thinking for the next leg. But all these teams were so close to where I wouldn't be thinking too far forward. I'd be thinking right now, because you can't think of the next leg if you're eliminated.
Yep.
So like, yeah, I almost like disagree. Like, I actually don't know. Like, I'm glad he got it and it ended up working out right. But it was just,
It was dangerous.
I don't know. I don't
It was
think I
risky.
would. Yeah, it
This
was
is-
risky in my opinion.
This is why I think it's important to have balanced roadblocks in the beginning so that
Yes.
you aren't in this position
later on.
later on. Yep. But I do love, I think it was,
Linda and Erica were on the verge of that. Sorry, Danny, I didn't mean to cut you off.
you're good. I mean, they talk about that. Like Melinda and Erica talk about, and like that was me and Mom. Like we had the conversations too. Of like, Mom, you need to do these so that we're balanced, being able to go into the end. But I will say what was interesting is Jonathan and Anna left first from the groceries, then got to the pizza third.
Yep.
And I was like, and then
happened?
left. And
Yeah.
then left.
And it's just funny that happened because they had a driver. Like, it wasn't even like they misdirected. Like, they all took cars to the next place and just the other drivers were quicker. Like, how frustrating.
That would be so frustrating.
That's the part you can't control, but it will literally make your skin crawl.
After they finished making their pizzas, though, they were directed to their pit stop, which was Castel Nuovo, which is often mentioned among one of the most stunning medieval castles in Europe, which I thought was a fun little fact. And that will be the pit stop for the 9th leg. And first, and again, an amazing leg by these two, was Jonathan and Anna. Second, Brett and Mark. Third, Alyssa and Josiah, which Phil starts busting out dad jokes at the pit stop. So it seems like Josiah is rubbing off on him a little bit. In 4th, we have Jack and Carson. And then in 5th, we have Han and Holden. And they are told in the season of surprises that this was a non-elimination leg. Granted, I will say a non-elimination doesn't surprise me, given the fact it is a season of surprises. I think the placement of it is a little odd. And again, the way the episode just kind of ended for me just felt a little off. And I don't know what it was.
So here's my thing. One, a non-elimination didn't shock me. But the part that's not sitting right with me is it didn't seem to shock Han and Holden either. Like there was something about the end of the race, and I would love to maybe hear their take on it, because I heard Han specifically say, like, I know we're in dead last. But just because she said that, and maybe I'm reading too into it and maybe I'm reading it completely wrong, I didn't really hear like desperation, which, one, if they truly were level-headed and were like, we're dead last, we're just going to run it out, whatever, I respect the hell out of that, because that's a very hard headspace to be in, to know that you're last and just try and finish it out positively. But something about it read that, like, I felt like they weren't worried.
Well, even in the car, they both said, like, hey, don't stress. He's like, I have a good feeling about it. And she goes, yeah, I
feel like they thought this. I mean, just like me as a viewer last week, I was like, I feel like it's going to be a non-elim. Like, they haven't teased, they haven't given us a preview of what twist is next. So I'm like, what could it be other than a non-elim? So I'm wondering if, like, maybe they assumed that, or like, I don't know, just something about it. I was like, I know that they were happy and ecstatic, but I wasn't getting the sense that they were relieved, if that makes sense. Like, because
it felt like
I think that they knew they were going to be safe or something.
Well, it felt too when they kind of came around the corner getting up to the pit stop. It felt like almost like they refilmed that part. Again, I may be overthinking this now, but yeah, you're right. Their reactions didn't seem very in the moment. It didn't feel very raw, like, wow, this is a non-elimination. And I feel like
I feel like I would have cried if I thought I was being eliminated and they were like, "No, you're not." I'd be like, oh, "Thank God!"
Yes.
Like,
and they even said this has been the first non-elimination in seasons. To the point where I would have been, my jaw would have been on the floor. I would have been like, "Oh my God!"
I would have been on the floor. I would have been like, straight on the floor, just like, "Yes, thank you."
In the last few seasons, though, they've told us at the beginning of the race there are no non-eliminations. Like at the start of our race, they said, "Yep, this is a season of no non-eliminations, so race as hard as you can." And that's been said the last 3. And when they were told this is a season of twists, and told and not told there's no non-eliminations, I think every single team can go.
Could have deduced like, "Oh, we didn't have a twist this leg so far, so we must be saved." Right. Yeah. I actually am happy. Like, this is not me taking away. Like, I actually am happy that they get to continue just because I genuinely enjoy them as a team. I'm curious if they can move up in the ranks next episode, if we're really just delaying the inevitable. So again, I'm not unhappy about it. It just, as I was watching it, I'm like, I don't know. I just expected tears of relief, I guess.
Yeah. Well, how do you think this is going to go? Do you think the next episode we're going to get 2 eliminations? Or do you think like in the past where it's going to be
You don't
4?
think? You don't? Oh, see, I wish they would do that.
I'm just thinking in terms of how many episodes are left, unless there's, because I feel like next week it'll get down to 4, and then the week of the finale, the penultimate leg is on Wednesday, so that's 4 teams to 3, and then Thursday nights. I would say maybe no, but the only thing that will upset me about this non-elimination, and this is because I'm an Amazing Race purist, Phil never mentioned a speed bump or a disadvantage on the next leg for it being a non-elimination, and I feel like in the past, I'm just saying with like Haley and Kaylin, for instance, they got both our non-eliminations, but both times they were told you'll have to complete a speed bump on the next leg, which of course adds time to your leg. He didn't mention anything like that to Han and Holden to make me think that they're going to be penalized for getting last.
There has to be.
Like, I'm with you, James. I didn't even think of that, and I would be. I agree. There would have to be some type of penalty for coming in last and giving the gift of non-elimination.
Well, I guess we'll be on pins and needles until next week.
But there is a twist returning in next week's episode. Next time, they're up the river without a joust, as the episode is called. Racers travel to Strasbourg, France, where they will go head-to-head in a water jousting match.
So fun.
I personally hate head-to-heads. That's one twist of the race that I wish would die. It does not make sense at all. And I'm mad that it's back, but I get it in this season of surprises. It's on theme, but I just don't like it.
But at least it's not an end.
Fair.
Yeah.
That's
true.
That is hard, but yeah.
Yeah. I'm with you. I don't love it, but in a season of twists, I'm like, all right,
expected. Yeah.
I almost kind of wish it was earlier, if that makes sense. Like, I don't know if that would make me feel better about
with more
it.
Times, with more
I do too. Yeah.
Like this late, it's I don't love it, but I guess we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, true.
It allows Han and Holden to catch up.
And that's why I'm like, there better be a speed bump.
Right.
And it needs to be after the head-to-head.
Yes.
And you see at the end, like, it's like, if you have a lead, because it doesn't make sense if it's before, because then it's just an equalizer waiting for teams to go head to head. You know what I mean? Like,
it sounds like Bertram and Elise need to give former racers a phone call and let all of us design a leg on the race.
I'm bringing the team swap back.
Oh, I did love that. I did love that. I would have hated it because I'd be like, no, Raquel. But like,
Yeah,
that's a really good twist that I enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, for sure. It was a good leg. I actually really liked it. Yeah,
agreed.
Overall really good. Loved the task, loved the location. Yeah, I don't know. I think I know who the top 3 are gonna be.
Well, if you can give three teams at this point, just 3 teams. What 3 teams do you think?
Alyssa and Josiah, Brett and Mark, and I think Jonathan and Anna.
Those are my 3 too. That's who I would pick as well.
Yeah. I don't know why I feel like Carson and Jack are like getting a little, I feel like they're slipping a little bit. And this late in the game to kind of slip is like, it's just getting too risky.
But they're so resilient. Like they just keep like,
they are resilient
and like, but that doesn't get you a win. So we'll see what happens.
Right. Yeah, so that's my guess, and that's just like the vibe I'm getting.
But. Same.
For me, I think Alyssa and Josiah are my like lock. I'm like, y'all are in the finale. Yeah. The edit you've had, you haven't failed at all. Like,
yeah,
there's been no like commercials.
Brett and Mark. Like those 2 for sure locks.
So,
or do you disagree?
I don't know. So here's the thing: they've done a lot of edit of like a Brent and Mark versus like. Jack and Carson. There's been a lot of like these 2 relationship, these 2 strengths, these 2 things, and we haven't seen like an end to that storyline, in my opinion.
Okay,
so I'm like, are they building it up to these 2 teams are going to be racing each other for the $1 million, or is it going to be episode 4? These are the 2 bottom teams, and they're racing each other for that last spot in the finale.
Ooh, not the battle of the gays. I hate it.
So
that's such a good point, though, Danny. I'm going to throw out a shocker. I'm going to say Han and Holden make top 3.
No.
The only reason is people counted Josh and Brent, the Beekman boys, out, and they ended up winning the whole thing. It doesn't matter how terrible you are at the race, as long as you don't come in last, you are still in it. And I think Han and Holden recognize that they may not be the strongest. And that's why we heard Han say, we just have to beat 1 team. And so I don't see them winning, but I can see them in the final 3. And in terms of story editing, they've gotten a lot of very personal story moments that I just feel like their story will be complete, whether they win or don't win, by crossing the finish line. So I can see Han and Holden in the top 3. I can see Mark and Brett in the top 3, and Jack and Carson in the top 3.
Interesting.
I can see Alyssa and Josiah. Depending on what twists there are, my fear is that they'll play the Express Pass correctly next week, but then be like that 4th team eliminated. That will shock everyone. Like, what happened? Yeah. And then Jonathan and Anna, I think we're seeing this good side of Jonathan, but in the preview for next week, they are literally butting heads with their self-navigating. And I just think that
it happens.
Something could happen with that. So I'm going to go with those are my 3 picks.
I will say the Han and Holden, though, like they broke this like brother-sister curse for the last 2 seasons. And they like kudos on them. They are crushing it. The last 2 seasons were like, come on, brother and sister. They're showing up.
Oh, I cannot wait to see how this season plays out.
I know. It's so good. It's been so good and so fun to watch.
Good.
I love all of the twists and turns.
I hope the twists and turns stay.
I agree. Yeah.
I
think it makes it so much more entertaining and like on the edge of my seat as to what's going to happen each week. So
agreed. Well, Danny and Ashlie, thank you for joining us to recap this episode. Always love hearing your insights, especially because you're fellow super fans of the show. And we'll be back next week for a recap of episode, 10? We blinked and the season's practically over.
I know.
Right.
Thanks for joining us, y'all.
Thank you for having us. Bye, guys. Take care.
Bye, y'all.